Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be joined on my left, Deputy Leader Tom Demmer, and to my right, Assistant Leader Avery Bourne, Deputy Leader Dan Brady, and Assistant Leader Mark Batnick. Before we get into the issue of the budget, I just want to make a statement that the news of the President's decision to commute the sentence of former Governor Blagojevich is something that I strongly disagree with. We are currently existing in a crisis of corruption and ethics in the state of Illinois, and his actions distract away from the investigation that is currently going on in this building and also throughout the state of Illinois. So that's all I have to say on that.
I wanted to ask one thing about that. What do you think the President's trying to prove? I mean, all the Republicans, members of the President's party, don't want this to happen. You know, congressional folks don't want it to happen. We're even Republicans. So what's Trump's game here?
I have no idea. I don't know what his game is, and I'm not going to try to, get into his head. I don't understand what his motivation is, but I think it's wrong.
The President did say earlier, he confirmed he's commuting Blagojevich's sentence, and he said the same people that were after him with the impeachment and the Russia investigation, everything were the same crew of people that went after Blagojevich, and he says it was just a corrupt process. Any truth to that you see?
I can't comment on that.
7 years is a long time. It's longer than George Ryan served. Isn't it long enough?
There's more deserving people who are in the federal department of Federal Bureau of Prisons who could use relief from this president other than Rob Blagojevich. All right, thank you. All right, with the governor's budget address tomorrow, we would like to lay out what the House Republicans are looking to hear from the governor tomorrow and how our caucus can work towards accomplishing another balanced budget. Let's go back in time to last spring. Through a bipartisan effort and an agreement in both chambers, we were able to craft a balanced budget with no new taxes for fiscal year 2020. That was a great and successful example of give and take, negotiations, and more importantly, inclusiveness. And that resulted in a positive outcome for all of Illinois. And that's how we got it done. We have now learned not only was the budget balanced, but there is a growing surplus. We have learned by example that when we work together in a bipartisan manner and respect each other's priorities, we can accomplish and have accomplished great things for our state. If that same willingness exists today, we can come back with the same result, a balanced budget that protects the citizens of Illinois with no new taxes, nor any tax increases. That means a budget that does not involve hypothetical revenues and that does not overspend just to justify more taxation. We don't need to wait until the last hours of session to get this done. And as you recall, it was the last 24 hours of session last May in which we put together a budget, a capital program, and also gaming expansion. If we start working together today, we can craft solutions where all Illinoisans' priorities are met. Our budget also has a major impact on our economic development in Illinois. Employers and future job creators want fairness and stability. The House Republicans were able to walk away from last year's budget negotiations with significant business reforms our state hasn't seen in decades. Those reforms included reinstating the Manufacturer's Purchase Credit, the Blue Collar Jobs Act, the Data Center Initiative, and a repeal of the franchise tax. Additionally, the House Republicans were able to ensure that the tuition tax credit program, which was a marquee part of education reform from a few years ago, we were able to ensure that this program that gives millions to families seeking better educational opportunities for their children will continue on. The House Republican Caucus will stand ready to work with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to get another balanced budget with no new taxes passed this session. It's within reach. I will now turn this over to our Chief Budgeteer, Deputy Minority Leader, Tom Demmer.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm Tom Demmer, representative from Dixon. Yet again this year, we stand as a House Republican Caucus ready to signal a willingness to work together with House Democrats and Senate Republicans and Democrats to craft a bipartisan balanced budget without tax increases. As you recall, last year we were very active as a House Republican Caucus in pushing the concept that through bipartisan work and through respecting each other's priorities, our appropriations committees in the House could do the hard work that it takes to produce a successful budget. We think that's again the case this year. I point to a couple of things that I believe that the appropriations committees and rank and file members from both parties should be involved in. First, in the projected revenues for the state for next year, just in the three largest areas of personal income taxes, corporate income taxes, and sales taxes, we have projected growth of nearly $1 billion in new revenue, thanks to a strong economic performance across the state in the last year and continued growth that we've seen across the country. Record low unemployment and quite a bit of economic activity is contributing to, even in a relatively conservative scenario, over $900 million in new revenue in those three categories alone for next year. We believe that's a great opportunity for appropriations committees to weigh in and talk about where we should invest those dollars through supporting critical state agencies like DCFS, through making increased investments in K-12 education and others. Rank and file members should be involved in how we allocate the new revenues that are a result of economic performance and growth and not the result of new tax increases. Secondly, I'd also say that over the last year, Governor Pritzker and his administration have asked on a couple of occasions for agency directors and department secretaries to prepare proposed spending reductions. Most recently in September, Deputy Governor Hines and the Director of the Office of Management and Budget instructed agencies to prepare 6.5% reductions that could help them achieve some efficiencies within their agencies, not result in undue hardships, but help us address both the revenue and expense side of the ledger. Again, we think that's a very important exercise, one that's responsible to undertake, and one that those ideas should be presented to appropriations committees as we go through budget hearings, both in public and behind closed doors. We should have all of those suggestions and ideas on the table. I believe that if we look at the revenue growth that has come from a growing economy and combine that with common sense ways to reduce spending in government that seem at least to have bipartisan support right now, that we'll be able to again achieve a bipartisan balanced budget. And we look forward to kicking off that process quickly and being very engaged in that, again, respecting the priorities of both sides of the aisle.
I think Representative Bourne would like to make a brief statement. Dan?
Thank you. I'm Representative Dan Brady, the Bloomington Normal area, the 105th Legislative District, and in particular, minority spokesman on higher education. Like the crafting of this budget we're presently in last year, we were faced with some major challenges, and at the 11th hour, revenues came in, as we all know, much stronger. We looked at about $1.5 billion more into the revenue side of things to balance that budget and to have a balanced budget with no new taxes that the leaders talked about. This time around, we're going to, from the higher education aspect of things, be very interested to see the 5% that we put in last time, what the reality is going to be of holding that, the 5% increase for universities, the increase that was given to MAP, the Monetary Award Assistance Programs, and to the AIM High programs. And so the stability for that, I believe, can be carried on with bipartisan support and being at the table and bringing forth ideas that translate into good, solid fiscal restraint and belt tightening versus any type of new taxes. So we look forward and extend our hand in the ability to work with the other side of the aisle and the majority party to do the same thing in a positive way for everybody in Illinois on the budget.
Thank you. Questions?
DCFS has been a mess since God was a little boy, and the governor's been talking about putting money into it. What's the right note on getting that agency back, where we can trust it, and they're not letting kids die?
Look, I can speak briefly to that. I'm glad to consider an investment. A lot of it's more than just money. It's people are in the agency, and I think that has to be the focus of how we're going to be able to restore confidence with people who have to deal with DCFS on a regular basis. So we have people who are working on this issue with DCFS, and we can't, my gosh, the things that have happened over the past few years, they're terribly sad. And, I hope that we have to avoid these types of outcomes in the future. So,
the fiscal year, if Representative Dimmer wants to address Dave's question.
He looks like he really wants to.
I would just echo the fact that, you know, we stand certainly open to supporting an increased appropriation to the agency, but this is not a problem that money alone is going to solve. There's been an ongoing effort with the DCFS work group with members of all 4 caucuses. I believe our own House Republican members are going to address some of those issues later this afternoon. We need to have both strong leadership, policy changes within the organization, as well as an increased investment.
The fiscal 2019 budget, the interim CAFR that came out from the comptroller's office essentially said it wasn't balanced. It spent $1 billion more than the state actually brought in, even though it brought in $3 billion more in revenue from all sources. How can you guys guarantee that the state actually lives within the means that are set out in any kind of budget enacting language?
Yeah, real simple. People of Illinois have to help me elect 16 new members to my caucus. That's it. It's a rule of 60. The issue of fiscal stability and austerity in state government is a fleeting issue with the Democrats. We have a requirement under the Constitution and under state law to present and to adopt a revenue estimate, in which is a blueprint for us to be able to determine how we're going to be able to budget every year. The Democrats refuse to do it. They don't find it that that is something that is required. It is very unfortunate. And I guess that's a clear example of the lack of sincerity that the Democrats have had for a number of years on how their spending priorities should be met or not be met. But we have to have a clear understanding of what exactly we're going to spend. And when we have that, at least we can make the argument that we don't have the money to pay for anything above and beyond that. But that's how you get into unbalanced budgets. And, you know, we need to take those requirements serious. Let's find out exactly how much our treasury is going to bring in this year, and let's just work from there. But they don't seem to be.
Last year, I stand to be corrected, or said, but it seems to me that wasn't an issue last year.
Well,
And you've made it, the Republicans have made it an issue in previous years, of course.
Well, we didn't have to. Well, I think last year, if you look at Representative Wheeler's statements weekly on the floor, and other members who were demanding a revenue estimate be adopted by the legislature, which was ignored. We will continue with that, even good times are bad. You know, last year where the revenues were good, we had a good opportunity to be able to meet our needs. I'm not sure what tomorrow's message is going to be, but it's responsible to find out exactly how much money we're going to have to spend this year without making decisions after the fact.
Do you have some inclination that they're going to be asking for a tax increase, or is it going to?
I don't have any inclination, and I'm not going to rely upon the hearsay that permeates this building.
Jim, what about on the governor? Last time you got, what, 6 items for help business. How open is the governor? Have you had conversations with him about how open is he to work with? And do you have a list of wants that you are looking for this year?
I've had a lot of very good discussions with the governor over the past many months, many issues. And I told him that our caucus will keep an open mind, and I also said it would be great if we can replicate what we did last year in this FY20 budget. I hope that the Speaker and the new President of the Senate have that same spirit, but we are at a point where we don't believe that you need any additional revenues. And I know that Representative Demmer was able to explain that we are looking at surplus, and we can meet the needs and obligations of Illinoisans without having to go back into the well.
The governor may give like 2 different tracks, you know, one saying, hey, this is what we're going to spend here, and then look into the future budgets talk about the so-called fair tax, graduated income tax. Do you think he should address that in the speech? What's your reaction if he does address that in the speech? Is it an issue for this coming budget?
We should discuss real money, not money that is based on hypotheticals or possibilities down the road. The issue at hand is what we have to deal with this fiscal year. The question will be on the ballot next November. Whether it is going to have a factor or not in mid-year budget negotiations, I don't know, but we shouldn't do a half-year budget. We should plan as if there will not be any change in the Constitution and work with the money that we will have in the state treasury at the moment.
One of the governor's suggestions from Friday when he revealed all of his efficiencies was combining the Departments of Labor and Employment Security. But then business pushed back and said, well, we need the Department of Employment Security to be an independent arbiter of, you know, everything from I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, so where do you fall on that?
I don't have a position on that. Does anybody else like to talk to that? Anybody? I read it, and I know that there has been some concern, but I haven't seen exactly what the savings would be with the consolidation and how there would be any type of disruption of services that both labor and employment security provide. So I'm not prepared to.
And does 225 million for this next year, does that sound like a reasonable amount of efficiencies that agency directors have found, or do you feel like they should go back for another round and say it's not deep enough?
The $225 million that were identified, only a small portion of it was actually from a reduction in operating budgets. So we think that's a far cry from the 6.5% that agency directors were asked to identify. So we certainly hope that tomorrow's speech includes more than just that 1 or 2 page document that was produced last week.
Thanks, everybody.
Can you, what was his role? Leader Durkin, what would you just clarify, what was your role in 2008? Were you an impeachment manager?
I was the no, I wasn't a manager. I was the ranking Republican on the investigatory committee. Barbara Curry was the chairman, I was the Republican.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.